Welcome to the Good Karma Sportfishing Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Ryan Van Fleet. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. And here's this is going to be a tackle tip here. Actually, it's just going to be a little tip for catching some bait. So I think the guys that follow me on Instagram know that I went out for just a couple hours to try to catch some bait fish for the weekend. So the bait fish had been in pretty thick on the patches, and they kind of spread out, and they got a little shy. So this happens quite often to local schools of Ballyhoo on patch reefs. So, and also too, if there's a lot of mackerel around or sharks around, the bait fish will bunch up and then they'll disperse quickly, and it can get to be kind of challenging. So, but the goal was to do so. I like to hoop net my bait. I don't like to throw the cast net for many reasons, especially when I'm by myself. Number one, in a previous podcast, this is long ago, I talked about having to save somebody that I was working under at the time who got caught up in his cast net. And this was back in an earlier podcast. He got caught up in his cast net and he got ripped out of the boat. And I was literally it was one of my first gigs down here. And he started floating away. And granted, he didn't tell me how to, he didn't show me how to run his boat or anything. It was an old commercial boat. And somehow everything clicked in. I left the boat, I left the anchor down, and I spun around, and he was caught up in the net. And it turned out that he had some back issues, and it just got really hairy, and I swung up alongside of him. And granted, guys, I had literally fresh off the boat down in the Keys, man, and serious stuff. And somehow your instincts kick in, and I got alongside of him, was able to get him a life jacket, and thankful that I was able to save him. So I had gone into the cabin, and I came back out, and he was gone. So, and there he was, not there. So it's really freaky when something like that happens. And this happens quite often. I think there was an incident down in Layton where this happened to somebody here not too long ago, where they found the boat and he was gone. So they're saying that he was cast netting and fell out, and that was it. So he drowned. But I caution, that's one of the reasons why I do not throw a cast net. I just have seen, after I've been through that, after I go through and witness something like that, and being by myself and working with clients that are new to ocean fishing, and you have to prevent all that stuff. So I kind of got off tangent a little bit, but I figured I needed to tell that story again, because it's really scary when something like that happens, and until it happens to you, you don't know how you're going to react. Okay, so especially this time of year, it can get a little rough. And if your boat has bad, like I said, I don't know how the skidding is on your deck, and try to avoid using bleach on your deck. If you are, you're going to ruin it, and you're going to have to replace your non-skid. So in the future, I'll do a podcast on what I do as far as cleaning, and then I have to very much say, do not use at your own risk. But I finally have a formula that works perfect, and it costs me pennies. I used to. Way back when, I used to do a lot of formulations for pharmaceutical companies and stuff as far as cleaning chemicals go, and that's what I've got with my chemistry background. That's what I did in a lot of companies. I formulated chemicals for cleaning large vats of drugs and substances, and I had to make sure shit was clean. So that's what I did. I formulated chemicals, and I know what works and what doesn't. I know how to put stuff together to make things work. And I'm kind of like a mad scientist when it comes to that, because that's what I did for many years. And I think that was honestly the only thing I enjoyed about some of the stuff that I did. So it was the chemistry of fighting bacteria. And I've got some crazy stories of things that I've done. And I think that's fighting major bacterias that were into companies products and tracing stuff, and it was very stressful. It was kind of it's kind of like hunting a fish is hunting a bacteria and tracing it through and finding it and all the process into that stuff. But it's stressful, man. It was stressful, but I honestly, that's what I like to do. I love to hunt that stuff and I love to kill it. And it's kind of like I would use that fisherman's mentality, I guess. So, but I didn't like anything else about my previous life. That was it. And I enjoyed the challenge of hunting things, and bacteria was one of them. And when I talk about saving millions of dollars of product and talk about stress. So, so yeah, when I worked for some big drug companies, that's what I did, man. So you want to talk about stress? But I actually thrived on it. Actually, it was actually very enjoyable. That part of my job. I didn't like anything else, like I said. But anyway, so my bait tip today. A reason why I'm talking about bait today is that we're getting into the live bait time of year where trolling is not going to be as effective. So this is where, as soon as the water gets really cold, you guys are going to have to really start putting down those trolling lures and switching over to slow trolling some ballyhoo, especially down here in the Keys. So that's going to be coming up here probably mid-January. Tends to be when that live bait fishery starts. So trolling live ballyhoo, the fish just go absolutely crazy for them. More so than live goggle eyes. Fish like dolphin, they're not big fans of goggle eyes, I've learned. Now they will eat them. They do catch some big fish I've caught, guys, don't get me wrong, they do eat them, but they'll really chew on a cigar minnow trolled on top or a small dink live ballyhoo. They just eat the shit out of that. And you could be like trolling a weed line, bump trolling with pilchards, and the trolling guy will come through there. He won't catch anything, but you're going to come through trolling 2 ballyhoo, and you're going to catch some nice ones. And we're coming up on that, honestly. Here within the next 3 to 4 weeks, that's when that fishery is going to explode. And I would honestly start preparing for that. And so my podcasts here over the next few weeks are really going to try to prepare you guys for doing some live bait fishing. Live bait fishing can be very, very peaceful, and you move at a slower pace, but actually you have to remember the way the current works. The fish are swimming towards you, so it's really about fishing, fishy areas, sticking with it, and trolling does something to people's minds where it makes them feel like they're covering water and doing something, and they have to get antsy. But some of the best fishermen down here are live bait fishermen. And I really enjoy it. I just have to have the right client for it that understands the peacefulness behind live bait fishing and what's going to happen. So I've talked a little bit about live bait fishing in the past, but today I want to talk to you guys about getting ballyhoo. And like I said, I'm going to be talking more about getting ballyhoo here over the next few weeks. But a couple things. So my learnings is that, like I said, I talked about this in the Instagram. I went out and I had 2 hours to try to catch some bait fish. The bait fish were really thick the day before, but I went out I went out the day after. And bottom line is that the ballyhoo were there, but it took forever for them to come up, and they were really skittish. Every time I'd show them the hoop net, they back off, and then when the bait fish came together, the mackerel crashed the bait, and then there were lots of sharks in there. There are mutton snappers. Mutton snappers really, really, really love crashing live ballyhoo on the surface. So just FYI. So the best thing for you guys to do when that happens is you got to be prepared. Do not rely on your hoop net, guys, okay? They will back off your hoop net. You can sit there and wait for them, and you're just wasting time. So what I do is there's a couple different things, and I'll talk more about some hoop net tricks here, but here's my strategy for how I get the bait. I will start thawing my bait, my block of chum early in the morning, because I want to get that chum rolling as soon as I get there, because I want to try to raise those ballyhoo up as soon as that sun starts to come up. So that's another thing, is sometimes they don't come up right away, but you gotta get that chum in the water. And soft chum works really well. My homemade soft chum works magic on bait fish, and like I said, I have that in a course you can buy. I've got the non-course related one that I have in there, but I have the real secret stuff in the course that really works wonders on on fish, especially on the patch reefs. So if you haven't tried that stuff yet for hogfish, you're totally missing out. That stuff is hogfish magic. It's the best hogfish bait you're gonna get is the stuff that in my that's in my mix, in my course. So, but anyways, just use the soft chum. You get that stuff rolling, and that'll bring up the bait fish. Now, how do I catch the bait fish? There's a couple. You got to be prepared 2 different ways. I have a light tackle trout rod that I use in the backcountry. It's got a whippy tip. And I use a popping cork under 12-pound to 10-pound leader, really short, like maybe 1 to 2 foot leader, small gold hooks. And then this is where, and then I have another rod I call the Mini Me or Baby Yoda. You guys have probably seen that, and that's Baby Yoda is for fish that are close to the boat, and that's what I use. That way I can, just easier to get them off the hook. So I've got like a short Baby Yoda rod that I use, an ice fishing rod basically that I use when the fish are right out of the bag and I don't want to net them. And I just want to take them one at a time. They're really close. You can get them off really quick with a short rod. And then I have the long whippy stick. And what that whippy stick does is that you can make your long cast back to those ballyhoo with a super light bobber. It allows you to really throw back to those. What'll happen is you'll get a lot of ballyhoo, but they'll stay way back there some days. They won't come close. So you need that long whippy stick trout rod, the long like 7-foot rod that you can really throw back there. And then here's what I use for bait. Now a lot of guys they like to cut up like little pieces of shrimp and stuff for little pieces of shrimp for ballyhoo. My personal favorite, and this is what I use squid tentacles. Okay, squid tentacles. What that does is that the ballyhoo really react to the movement of that squid tentacle. It gets them fired up. It's like a little, it's like a soft plastic. They're little mini fish, man. They see that little tail wagging moving. They're same as anything. You got to have that little bit of movement. And then what you'll see is that if the fish are very lethargic, by using that little piece of squid tentacle, and that little bitty movement is enough to get those fish fired up. It's the same thing with guys that ice fish. They use little tiny these little tiny pieces of plastic, and it's got a little whippy tail, and they catch 10 times more like crappies and bluegills on that stuff when they're jigging for those fish. And that's the same premises. It's like a soft plastic. It's like when you're trolling. It's like when you're throwing for redfish or trout or anything. You gotta get that tail shaking. It's like trolling a ballyhoo. Fish don't like suicidal baits, man, and I'm sure you guys have heard about that before. So they just don't like a bait that just sits there. And ballyhoo are the same. So you do have to, like when you throw into a school, you have to. What I found is the ballyhoo that are way in the back are not as shy. Are not as shy, and the ballyhoo that are in the front are shy. Then you'd be like, why won't I can't get these things to bite? So you have to fish for them, guys. You have to fish for them. You have to get the bait moving. And that squid tentacle is amazing. Number one, it's fairly clean, and you can cut them up pretty quickly, and you can just put them out, line them up, and then just keep going. Not to mention, you can catch 3 to 4 ballyhoo on one squid tentacle. Now, the squid tentacle makes one hell of a yellowtail snapper bait, too. So it's just enough movement on there that it really gets it jamming. And then you can use down in Key West, they call it I think they call it the salami sandwich or some shit down there. But anyways, they use like a glass minnow and a piece of bonito meat on top. It's the same. What you can do is I use squid when I use little squid tentacles when I'm mutton snapper fishing sometimes. And what I'll do is I'll take a piece of a small piece of bonito meat, and I'll squid tentacle, take a couple squid tentacles, and then I'll hook them on the top of that hook just to get a little movement. So if the fish aren't like active, man, you got to have some sort of little jiggle in the jangle, man, to get them fired up. It's just like jigging. So it's just the angle of the jig and how fast you jig, whether they want it slow pitched or not. So the squid tentacle can really help add a little bit of action to the jig. Now, it works. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. And a lot of guys, tournament guys, use the squid tentacle. And some of the guys I just found out, they're like, oh, they're just learning about it. It's like, so it's just like I said, you just need a small gold hook. You need to cut down your squid tentacle. You got to make it to where the fish can eat it too. They have really small mouths, and obviously too, you guys know that Ballyhoo are, supposedly vegetarians. So what that chum does, it switches them over, and then they gets them into a feeding frenzy, and that's when they'll start eating. Now, squid also too, I've been catching, the muttons that I've been catching on the Patries are loaded with small squid, and actually took some squid out of the mutton snappers, and I put it on the bait hook, and I was catching some Ballyhoo on them. So that's another thing you guys got to remember, is that the patches do have a lot of small squid on it in the wintertime, and at night, the early morning mutton snappers, that's what they're chewing on, a lot of them. So just FYI, especially around the moons. So we got the full moon in November coming up. That usually tends to be some sort of squid migration. So that's where pinks are going to come into play here on this moon. And, run your pinks on your planers. And that's going to really help you guys, catch some whatever blackfin tunas and wahoo and stuff, if that's what you guys are fishing for. But don't discount the pink on this full moon. Oops, that's something that I don't know, but it just kind of flowed out. So I am in the process of rigging up some pink baits here for running on my planers and stuff. But who knows? It's just something that. So, and another thing you can try is that you can try to attach a smaller chum bag with some soft chum. You got to pack it full. This is a fine mesh bag, and then what you can do is you have to take my chum mix and then pack it into a small chum bag, and then it needs to be really small, like almost like you take like 2 chum balls and you pack them to a fine mesh bag, and you can actually double up a fine mesh bag, and then you need to attach it to a slip, so it'll slip on your hoop net. And what that'll do is that when you get your hoop net out, and you'll see how the current's moving around, your hoop net's going to go in one direction and the other. And what that small little chum bag is going to do for you is number one, it's going to try to get the bait fish more in front of your hoop. So what'll happen is you've got your hoop net out, okay? And the bait fish will go off the bait fish will be in one direction and your hoop will be in the other. So what you can do is like I said, you need to use my chum mixes. It works really, or whatever soft chum mix you want to come up with. Mine works really well because it packs nicely, and the ingredients in it has a slower dissolve rate. So it actually will dissolve perfectly to get a perfect amount of chum. And then your bait fish are going to line up with your hoop, and then you can make a really strong move with your hoop net, and then that small chum bag is just going to slide down, okay? So, or you can tie a knot in the middle, and then kind of get it to where it doesn't move. I'll probably I don't know when I have time. I don't know when I'll have time to do it, but I might be able to show a picture of it in action out there on the water. But like I said, I don't like to do a lot of videos because I just don't when I'm with clients, because I'm on their time, their dime, and video and stuff is for them. So that's why I don't do a lot of social media out there and stuff. It's my client's time, and I'm not out there to be in the tower giving people play-by-play on my Instagram. Because the clients are paying me to put them on fish and not be on Instagram. So that's another reason why I don't do a lot of that stuff, because I'm 100% focused on my clients. So when I get time on my own, I will, or if I'm in the process of doing it for a client, I'll try to ask them if it's okay if I make a little video, because like I said, I'm on their time. So, and I do ask permission of the clients to do some filming. So, because it's, like I said, they're paying me. Yeah. So anyways, it's a little tricky, but once you figure it out, I'm sure a lot of you guys can figure it out. And if you go back through and you guys can look and you see on some of the Ballyhoo videos, you'll see it there, but it's not shown really close. So you have to really look for it, because it's a kind of a well hidden secret, and it's there, but it's kind of tricky. Like I said, you can do it's like a slip, something you can do with the slip and the knot. And I do it when I need to. It's a little bit more work for me when I'm out on a charter, but I do it when I need to. And also too, what you can do is, a lot of guys, you need to buy another additional rope for your Ballyhoo. Buy one of those buy another floating rope, A floating rope, ski rope works really good. And what you do is you keep the floating rope with you on the boat. And when the ballyhoo are way back there, then you can attach your floating rope to your, just clip it on using the metal clip that it comes with it. And I buy the floating rope at the Yellow Bait House. You can get it at Kmart, and it's like an extra 30-foot a rope. And then what you do is then you use that extra 30-foot. You put it way back there, and you get them all. Obviously, then you attach that chum bag in the middle. That's with the soft chum. So there's just lots of other things, lots of little tricks you can do with that, with the hoop nets. So there's so many different tricks, but obviously attaching a chum bag in the middle of the rope and getting that chum bag extended out and to where it doesn't affect the pole and it has to slide a little bit. And I'm going to leave that up to you guys because I think you guys are pretty smart. You guys can figure it out. I said, some of the things that I do, I just do it and it feels natural to me. For me to sit down and write instructions, it takes a while. So, because I'm constantly fidgeting with stuff to make things work for me, it is based on what my instincts are and what the fish are doing. So I change things around a lot. And like I said, I do my absolute best to explain things, but my instincts are, I just change so many times in what I do. And I can't, you may learn one thing from me out on the water, but I've already changed it several times. So, but that's just a little tip for you guys today. I hope some of the things I shared with you guys will help you catch some more ballyhoo this fall. I probably am going to be doing some tips here on some other types of stuff here with ballyhoo and live baiting them. So I got a lot of other shit planned. But anyways, I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving. So I know it's been a tough year for a lot of people, including myself. And today I kind of hit home with a couple things, and I honestly had to go lay down for a little while this afternoon because of some things that happened personally with some things. So I had to basically take a time out here today. And things that make me happy are doing this podcast and sharing information. And making people better. Hence why I'm sitting down here on Thanksgiving Eve doing this podcast when I could be, like I said, I really, really enjoy it. And I hope that the people that really are loyal listeners and have got some things out of the podcast pass on the information to other anglers, pass on the information about the podcast. When I see things grow, it really is inspiring to me to put out some really good, I do my best to put out some good stuff for you guys. So like I said, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting down tonight and like I said, and putting something out because it does honestly just sitting down here and sharing this kind of stuff with you guys has made me feel better about my day and just overall just in a better vibe. So thank you guys for listening. Good luck out there this weekend. And honestly, I hope everybody does well, catches some nice fish. Be polite out there. And like I said, there's just a lot of craziness, man. So, but I'm going to leave it at that. You guys, happy Thanksgiving. God bless. And remember, anytime you're fishing, bridge fishing, boat fishing, fishing on a dam somewhere, it does not matter. Get outside and go fishing. Be appreciative of others. And remember, anytime you're fishing, it's all good. Thanks, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.